Amara had always believed that careful people never stumbled into disasters. She was wrong. It happened on a Tuesday evening, the kind that tasted like burnt coffee and unpaid bills. She sat in her cramped apartment, the glow of her phone painting her face in blue light. Her fingers moved quickly, scrolling through messages, responding to clients, chasing invoices that never seemed to arrive on time. Freelance graphic design paid just enough to keep her afloat, but never enough to let her breathe. Her daughter, Zara, slept in the next room. 4 years old, a bright laugh trapped in a small body that coughed too often, that needed medicine Amara couldn't always afford. The sound of that cough had become the rhythm of her guilt. She opened a message. Read it. Replied. Except she didn't. Her thumb slipped. The screen shifted. And instead of sending a polite response to a client about logo revisions, she sent a message meant for her best friend, a sarcastic, biting comment about a local businessman everyone whispered about but no one dared to name, into a group chat she didn't recognize. The message was sharp. Funny, even. It called him a narcissist with a god complex. It suggested that anyone who feared him was feeding his ego. It ended with a laughing emoji. She didn't notice the mistake until 3 minutes later. By then, it was too late. The chat exploded. Messages flooded in, frantic and anonymous. Her name appeared in responses she couldn't delete. Screenshots were already circulating. Someone tagged someone else. The chain grew. Her joke, her careless, stupid joke, began to travel through the city's digital veins like poison. Amora's breath caught. Her hands shook. She tried to unsend the message, but the option was grayed out. She tried to leave the group, but it wouldn't let her. The chat was locked, controlled, and then the messages stopped. A single notification appeared. Asterisk asterisk, seen by Kian Ashford. Asterisk asterisk. Her blood turned to ice. Kian Ashford. The name people only said in whispers. The man who owned half the city's nightlife, its docks, its silence. The kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice to make someone disappear. Amora had just insulted him. Publicly. In a chat she didn't even know existed. Her phone buzzed. A new message. Asterisk asterisk, interesting sense of humor. Asterisk asterisk. No name. No profile picture. Just those 3 words. She dropped the phone. It clattered onto the floor, screen up, still glowing. Her mind raced. She thought of Zara. She thought of running. She thought of how stupid she'd been, how one careless moment could unravel everything. Before we go on, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. The phone buzzed again. She picked it up with trembling hands. Asterisk asterisk, someone will come for you. Don't run. It will be worse if you do. Asterisk asterisk. Amora's apartment suddenly felt too small, too exposed. The walls seemed to close in. She thought of locking the door, but what good would that do? People like Kian Ashford didn't knock. She sat on the edge of her couch, knees pulled to her chest, and waited. The minutes stretched. 10, 20, 30. Zara stayed in the next room, coughing softly in her sleep. Amora's heart clenched. She thought of waking her, packing a bag, running to her mother's house 2 towns over. But she didn't move. Fear had weight. It pressed her into the cushions, made her limbs useless. At the 50-minute mark, her phone buzzed again. Asterisk asterisk, they're outside. Asterisk asterisk. She stood, walked to the window, pulled the curtain back just an inch. A black SUV idled at the curb. Tinted windows. Engine humming. A man in a dark suit stood beside the rear door, hands folded in front of him, waiting. Her breath fogged the glass. She didn't have a choice. She grabbed her jacket, checked on Zara one last time, kissed her forehead, and whispered a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. Then she walked downstairs. The man didn't speak. He opened the door. She climbed in. The interior smelled of leather and something sharp. Cologne, maybe, or the residue of expensive cigars. The seats were soft. Too soft. The kind of comfort that felt like a trap. A second man sat across from her. older, gray at the temples. His expression was unreadable. The door closed. The car began to move. Amora's voice came out small, brittle. "Where are we going?" The man didn't answer. She tried again. "I didn't mean." "Save it," he said. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "You'll explain to him." The drive felt endless. The city blurred past the windows, neon signs, empty streets, the distant glitter of the waterfront. She tried to memorize the route, but her mind refused to focus. All she could think about was Zara. Who would take care of her if Amora didn't come back? They turned down a narrow road. The buildings grew taller, older, brick and iron in shadows that swallowed the streetlights. The car stopped in front of a warehouse. No sign, no lights, just a single door, slightly ajar. The man gestured. "Inside." She stepped out. The night air was cold, biting. Her legs felt unsteady, but she forced herself to walk. The door opened before she reached it. Inside, the space was vast and dim. Exposed beams, concrete floors, a faint smell of oil and rust. In the center of the room, a single chair sat beneath a hanging light. And beyond it, at a desk made of dark wood, sat a man. Cian Ashford. He didn't look up. Not at first. He was reading something on his phone, his jaw sharp in the half-light, his fingers tapping idly against the desk. He wore a black shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and his presence filled the room in a way that didn't require movement or sound. Amora stopped a few feet away. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Finally, he looked up. His eyes were dark, unreadable. They moved over her slowly, cataloguing every detail, her old jacket, her scuffed shoes, the way her hands trembled at her sides. He set the phone down. "You're the one who called me a narcissist." It wasn't a question. She opened her mouth, closed it, nodded. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "Funny. Most people who insult me don't live long enough to meet me." She forced herself to speak. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean to." "But you did mean the words," he interrupted. His voice was soft, almost conversational. "Or you wouldn't have written them." She swallowed. "I didn't know I was in that chat. I thought I was messaging a friend. And yet, here you are." Silence settled between them, heavy and suffocating. Amora's mind raced. Apologize. Beg. Offer something. Anything. But her voice had abandoned her. Cian stood. He moved slowly, deliberately, circling the desk until he stood only a few feet away. He was taller than she expected. His presence was gravitational. It pulled at her, made her want to step back and step forward all at once. "You have a daughter," he said. Her breath caught. "Yes." "Zara. 4 years old. Asthma." Her chest tightened. "How do you?" "I know everything about you, Amora." He said her name like he'd known it all his life. "I know you're behind on rent. I know you work 16-hour days to keep her fed. I know you're drowning." Tears pricked her eyes, but she blinked them back. "If you're going to hurt me, just do it. But leave her alone. She has nothing to do with this." Something flickered in his expression. Not softness, not pity. Something else. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. She blinked. "What?" "I'm going to help you." Her confusion must have shown, because he smiled, a small, humorless thing that didn't reach his eyes. "You made a mistake," he continued. "But you're also brave enough to show up instead of running. That's rare, and I don't like wasting rare things." "I don't understand." "You will." He turned, walked back to his desk, and pulled a folder from a drawer. He placed it on the surface between them. "Your debt, your rent, your daughter's medical bills, all of it, paid." Amora stared at the folder. "Why?" "Because you belong to me now." The words hung in the air, cold and absolute. She shook her head. "I don't." "You opened the wrong chat, Amora. Your name is everywhere. The people I answer to want you gone, but I don't. His eyes locked onto hers. So I'm keeping you here, under my protection, until this blows over. And if I say no, his smile returned, sharper this time, then you walk out that door, and I can't promise what happens next. She looked at the folder, at him, at the door behind her. There was no real choice. There never had been. She nodded, and with that, her life folded in on itself, collapsing into something smaller, darker, and entirely his. They took her to a place she didn't recognize. Not a warehouse. Not the cold, industrial space where she'd first met him. This was something else entirely. A penthouse at the edge of the city, high enough that the lights below looked like scattered stars. Glass walls, marble floors, furniture that looked too perfect to touch. It was beautiful. It was a cage. Amara stood in the center of the living room, her arms wrapped around herself, feeling small and out of place. Kian moved past her without a word, shrugging off his jacket and draping it over the back of a chair. He poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter, the amber liquid catching the light. "You'll stay here," he said. Not an offer. A statement. She turned to face him. "For how long?" "As long as it takes." "And Zara?" "She'll be brought here tomorrow, with a nanny. A doctor will check on her twice a week." He took a sip, his gaze never leaving hers. "She'll be safer here than she's ever been." Amara wanted to argue, to scream, to demand answers, but exhaustion pressed down on her shoulders, and she knew that fighting wouldn't change anything. "Where will I sleep?" she asked quietly. He gestured toward a hallway. "Second door on the left. Your things will arrive in the morning." She nodded, turned, walked toward the hall. His voice stopped her. "Amora." She looked back. "Don't try to leave," he said. "There are men outside. They won't stop you, but they will follow. And if you put your daughter at risk because you couldn't sit still." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. She disappeared into the hallway without another word. The room was larger than her entire apartment. A king-sized bed, a window that stretched from floor to ceiling, a bathroom with a tub big enough to drown in. It was luxury she'd never imagined, and it felt like mockery. She sat on the edge of the bed and let the tears come. The first days were the hardest. Zara arrived the next afternoon, wide-eyed and clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. The nanny, a middle-aged woman named Claire with kind eyes and a firm voice, settled her in quickly, distracting her with games and songs. Amara watched from the doorway, her heart aching. Zara didn't ask where they were. She didn't ask why. She was 4. The world was still simple for her. Amora envied that. Kian was rarely there. He came and went like a ghost, his presence announced by the soft click of the door, the sound of his footsteps on marble. He didn't speak to her unless necessary. He didn't explain. He simply existed in the periphery of her new life, a constant reminder of who held the strings. She tried to settle into a routine. Mornings with Zara, afternoons sketching in a notebook she'd been given, evenings staring out the window, watching the city breathe below. But the walls pressed in. The silence was suffocating, and every time she heard the door open, her heart jumped, fear and something else, something she refused to name. It was on the 5th night that everything shifted. She couldn't sleep. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet. She slipped out, barefoot, and wandered into the living room. Kian was there. He sat on the couch, his head tilted back, eyes closed. A glass of whiskey rested on the table beside him. For the first time, he looked tired, human. She almost turned back, but he spoke before she could. "Can't sleep." She hesitated. "No." He opened his eyes, glancing at her. "Join me." It wasn't a request, but it wasn't a command either. She moved slowly, sitting on the far end of the couch, as far from him as the furniture allowed. Silence stretched between them. Finally, she spoke. "Why are you doing this?" "I told you." You're safer here. That's not an answer. He turned his head, studying her. You want the truth? Yes. Because I'm tired of being surrounded by people who lie to my face. His voice was low, almost contemplative. You didn't know who I was. You said what you thought. That's rare. So you kidnapped me because I was honest. A faint smile tugged at his lips. I didn't kidnap you. I gave you a choice. That wasn't a choice. No, he admitted. It wasn't. She didn't know what to say to that. He reached for his glass, swirling the liquid inside. You think I'm a monster. I think you're dangerous. I am. He took a sip. But so is the world outside that door. And at least here, the danger is predictable. She looked at him, really looked at him. The sharp lines of his face, the weariness in his eyes, the way his shoulders carried weight she couldn't see. What happened to you? She asked softly. His jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he did. I was 13 when my father was killed. Shot in front of me. The men who did it smiled while they pulled the trigger. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. I spent the next decade learning how to make sure no one ever smiled at me like that again. Amora's breath caught. I'm not asking for sympathy, he continued. I made my choices. I live with them. But don't mistake cruelty for enjoyment, Amora. I do what I do because I have to, not because I want to. She didn't respond. Couldn't. He stood, setting the glass down. Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be easier. He left her there, alone in the dim light, with his words echoing in her mind. And for the first time, she wondered if the man who had taken her wasn't the monster she thought he was, or if he was something far more complicated. The days began to blur together. Amora stopped counting them. What was the point? Time didn't move the same way here. It stretched and contracted, shaped by the rhythms of Kian's comings and goings, by Zara's laughter, by the quiet moments when Amara found herself staring at nothing, her mind adrift. She learned the patterns of the penthouse, the way the morning light hit the windows, the sound of Clay's footsteps in the kitchen, the low hum of the city far below, a world she was no longer part of. And she learned Kian's patterns too. He was meticulous, controlled. He woke early, before the sun, and left before she could see him. He returned late, long after Zara had gone to bed, and moved through the space like a shadow. He didn't intrude, didn't demand. He existed parallel to her, close but never touching, except for the nights when he stayed. Those nights, he sat in the living room with a drink, sometimes reading, sometimes just staring at the window. And Amora, unable to sleep, found herself drawn to him, not by choice, not by desire, but by something she couldn't name, curiosity, maybe, or the strange comfort of shared silence. They didn't talk much, but when they did, the conversations were careful, measured, like two people circling a fire, afraid to get too close. It was on the 12th night that the first crack appeared. Amora had been sketching, a habit that helped her feel like herself again. She sat curled on the couch, pencil moving across paper, her mind quieted by the repetitive motion. Kian appeared without warning. He didn't greet her, just poured himself a drink and sat in the chair across from her. She glanced up. Long day. Something like that. She returned to her sketch. A moment passed. What are you drawing? He asked. She hesitated, then turned the pad toward him. It was Zara, sleeping, peaceful. His expression softened. Just for a second. You're good. It's just a hobby. No, he said. It's more than that. She didn't know how to respond to that, so she said nothing. He leaned back, his gaze distant. My mother used to draw. Amora set the pencil down. What happened to her? She died when I was 8. Cancer. He took a sip. She used to draw me, over and over. Said she wanted to remember every version of me. Did she? I don't know. She ran out of time. The room felt heavier. Amora's chest tightened. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be. It was a long time ago." But the way he said it made her think it wasn't. Not really. The second crack came 3 days later. Amora had been trying to reach her mother, just to check in, to let her know Zara was safe. But every call went unanswered, every message ignored. Panic set in. She found Kian in his office, a room she'd never entered before. She knocked once, then pushed the door open without waiting. He looked up, his expression unreadable. "I need to talk to my mother," she said, her voice tight. "Something's wrong. She's not answering." He studied her for a moment, then picked up his phone. A few taps, a brief conversation in a language she didn't understand. He hung up. "She's fine," he said. "She's been told not to contact you." Amora's blood went cold. "You did that?" "It's for her safety. And yours. You had no right." "I had every right." His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "The people looking for you don't care about collateral damage. If they trace a call back to her, she becomes a target. I'm protecting her, whether you like it or not." She wanted to scream, to argue, but deep down, she knew he was right, and that made it worse. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Amora." She didn't turn around. "I know this is hard," he said quietly, "but it won't be forever." She left without responding. The third crack came a week later. Zara had a nightmare. She woke up crying, calling for her mother. Amora rushed to her side, holding her, whispering soft reassurances until the tears stopped and her breathing evened out. When she finally emerged from Zara's room, exhausted and emotionally drained, she found Kian standing in the hallway. He didn't say anything, just looked at her. "She's fine," Amora said, her voice hoarse. "Just a bad dream." He nodded, but he didn't leave. "You're good with her," he said after a moment. "She's my daughter." "Not all parents are good at it." Something in his tone made her pause. She looked at him more closely. "Was yours?" His jaw tightened. "My father was a lot of things. Good wasn't one of them." She waited, sensing there was more. He exhaled slowly. "He taught me the business. How to survive. How to win. But he never taught me how to be anything other than what I am." "And what's that?" He met her eyes. "Alone." The word hung in the air between them, raw and unguarded. Amora's heart twisted. She didn't know why. She shouldn't care. He had taken her freedom, her choices. He was the reason she was here. But in that moment, she saw something she hadn't before. He wasn't just her captor. He was as trapped as she was. If this story has already found a place in your heart, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below for more stories that stay long after they end. The days continued to pass. The walls no longer felt as close. The silence no longer felt as suffocating. And Amora realized, with a creeping, uncomfortable awareness, that she was starting to see Kian not as the man who had taken her, but as the man who had stayed. She began to notice the small things. The way Kian always checked the locks before he went to bed. The way his hand would pause on the door handle, as if he were listening for something she couldn't hear. The way his shoulders tensed when his phone rang at odd hours. The way he'd disappear into his office for hours afterward, his voice low and clipped through the walls. He carried the weight of his world in silence, and she was learning to read the language of it. It scared her how easily she'd started to do that. Zara liked him. That was the strangest part. Children had instincts. They could sense danger, even when they didn't understand it. But Zara didn't flinch when Kian entered the room. She didn't hide behind Amora's legs or grow quiet in his presence. Instead, she watched him with wide, curious eyes. One evening, Zara was coloring at the dining table, her tongue poking out in concentration. Kian walked past, pausing just long enough to glance at her work. That's a good dragon, he said. Zara looked up, beaming. It's not a dragon. It's a dinosaur. My mistake. Do you like dinosaurs? She asked. He considered the question. I suppose I do. Which one's your favorite? Amora watched from the kitchen, her hands stilling over the dishes she'd been washing. She waited for him to brush the question off, to retreat into his usual silence. But he didn't. The velociraptor, he said. Zara's eyes lit up. That's mine too. They are really smart. And fast. Exactly. Do you want to color with me? Amora held her breath. Kian hesitated. Then, slowly, he pulled out a chair and sat down. Zara handed him a crayon. Amora turned back to the dishes, her chest tight with something she couldn't name. That night, after Zara was asleep, Amora found Kian on the balcony. He stood at the railing, his hands braced against the cold metal, his gaze fixed on the city below. The wind tugged at his shirt, and for a moment he looked like a man standing on the edge of something. She stepped outside. The air was sharp, biting. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. He didn't turn. Do what? Color with her, she asked. You could have said no. I know. Silence settled between them. The city hummed below, a distant, constant murmur. She likes you, Amora said. She's 4. She doesn't know any better. Maybe, or maybe she sees something I didn't. That made him turn. His eyes searched hers, dark and unreadable. And what do you see? She didn't answer. Not right away. She wasn't sure she had the words. I see someone who's trying, she finally said. I don't know why, but I see it. His expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Something raw. I'm not a good man, Amora. I know. Then why are you standing here? She didn't have an answer for that either, so she stood there, beside him, in the cold, and let the silence speak for both of them. The days grew longer. The nights grew softer. Amora found herself seeking him out, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She'd sit across from him in the evenings, sketching while he read, their silence comfortable and familiar. Sometimes he'd ask about her drawings. Sometimes she'd ask about his day. The conversations were small, inconsequential, but they mattered, and she hated that they did. It was on a rainy afternoon that everything began to shift. Zara was napping. Claire had the day off. Amora sat curled on the couch, a book open in her lap, but she wasn't reading. She was thinking. About him. About this place. About how easy it had become to forget that she was here against her will. Kian appeared, drenched. His hair was wet, his shirt clinging to his frame. He looked exhausted. Are you okay? She asked, setting the book aside. Fine. He wasn't. She could see it in the tightness of his jaw, the way his hands curled into fists at his sides. What happened? Nothing you need to worry about. Kian. Drop it, Amora. His tone was sharp, cutting. It was the first time he'd spoken to her like that in weeks. She flinched. He saw it. His expression shifted, softening. He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his wet hair. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. It's fine. It's not. He moved toward her, then stopped, as if unsure of what to do. There was a problem. One of my men got hurt. His in the hospital. Her chest tightened. Is he going to be okay? I don't know. She stood, closing the distance between them. I'm sorry. Why? You didn't do anything. Because you care about him, and that matters. He looked at her, his gaze intense. You shouldn't care about me, Amora. I don't, she lied. He stepped closer. Yes, you do. Her breath caught. He was too close, too real, and the air between them felt electric, dangerous. Don't, she whispered. Don't what? Whatever this is. He reached out, his fingers brushing a strand of hair from her face. The touch was gentle, almost reverent. I can't stop thinking about you, he said quietly. Her heart hammered against her ribs. You have to. Why? Because I'm not yours. His jaw tightened. You've been mine since the moment you walked into that warehouse. That's not love, Kian. That's control. Is it? He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Then why are you still here? Why do you sit with me every night? Why do you look at me like I'm not the monster you think I am? She couldn't answer, because he was right, and that terrified her. If you've ever felt torn between fear and love, you'll understand her. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Your support keeps stories like this alive. He pulled back, his expression guarded. I'll stay out of your way. He turned to leave. Kian. He stopped. I don't want you to. He looked back, his eyes searching hers. She didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. He walked back to her, slowly, deliberately, and when he cupped her face in his hands, she didn't pull away. This is a mistake, he murmured. I know. We can't take it back. I know. He kissed her, soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she'd break. But she didn't. She kissed him back, her hands fisting in his wet shirt, pulling him closer. And in that moment, the world outside ceased to exist. There was only him, only her, only this. The kiss changed everything. It didn't explode into passion. It didn't ignite some grand, cinematic moment. It was quiet, desperate, a confession neither of them had the courage to speak aloud. When they pulled apart, Amora's hands were still clutching his shirt. His forehead rested against hers, the breaths mingling in the small space between them. We shouldn't have done that, she whispered. No, he agreed. We shouldn't have. But neither of them moved. Kian's thumb traced the line of her jaw, slow and deliberate, as if he were mimizing the shape of her. I told myself I wouldn't do this. Do what? Want you. The words hit her like a fist to the chest. She pulled back, just enough to see his face. You don't get to want me, Kian. You took me. That's not the same thing. His jaw tightened. I know. Then why? Because I can't help it. His voice was raw, stripped of its usual control. I've spent my whole life not needing anyone, not letting anyone in. And then you walked into my life, and I can't. He stopped, exhaling sharply. I can't stop thinking about you, about Zara, about what it would be like if this were real. It's not real, she said, her voice breaking. It can't be. I know. But the way he looked at her said otherwise. She didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the kiss over and over in her mind. The way his hands had felt against her skin. The way her body had responded, despite everything. She hated herself for it, hated him for making her feel this way. But mostly, she hated that she didn't want to take it back. The next morning, Kian was gone before she woke. It became a pattern. He avoided her, not cruelly, not obviously, but there was a distance now that hadn't been there before. He came home late, left early, and when they crossed paths, his gaze lingered just long enough to remind her of what had happened and what couldn't happen again. Amara told herself it was for the best. She threw herself into her routine. Mornings with Zara, afternoons sketching, evenings staring at the window, pretending she wasn't waiting for the sound of his footsteps. But the silence was louder now. It was Zara who broke the stalemate. Where's Kian? She asked one evening, her small face scrunched in confusion. He didn't say good night. Amora's chest tightened. He's working, sweetheart. But he always says good night. Not always. But I drew him a picture. Zara held up a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures, herself, Amora, and a tall figure with dark hair. I wanted to show him. Amora's throat closed. She forced a smile. I'm sure he'll love it. You can give it to him tomorrow. Promise. Promise. But Amora wasn't sure she believed it. Kian didn't come home that night, or the next. Amora told herself she didn't care. But on the 3rd night, when the door finally opened and he stepped inside, her heart lurched. He looked worse. Exhausted. His shirt was wrinkled, his jaw shadowed with stubble. He moved like a man carrying the weight of the world. He didn't see her at first. But when he did, he stopped. You're awake, he said. I couldn't sleep. He nodded, setting his keys on the counter. Is Zara okay? She's fine. She missed you. His expression softened. I'll check on her in the morning. She made you a drawing. That stopped him. He turned, his gaze locking onto hers. She did. Yes, she's been waiting to give it to you. He didn't respond, just stood there, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. You should go to bed, he said finally. It's late. So should you. I will. But he didn't move. Amora crossed her arms, her voice quiet but firm. What are we doing, Kian? I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She stepped closer. You kissed me. You said you couldn't stop thinking about me. And now you're running away. I'm not running. Then what do you call this? He exhaled, dragging a hand through his hair. I'm trying to keep you safe. From what? The people outside. Or from you? He flinched. Both. That's not fair. No, he agreed. It's not. Then stop pushing me away. Amora. I don't know what this is either, she interrupted. But I know it's not nothing. And I know you feel it too. He closed the distance between them in 2 strides, his hands framing her face. You don't understand. If I let myself have you, really have you, I won't be able to let you go. And when this is over, you'll hate me for it. Maybe, she whispered. But right now, I don't. His forehead dropped to hers. This is a bad idea. I know. We'll regret it. Probably. He kissed her again, harder this time, like he was drowning and she was air. And Amora, despite everything, kissed him back. Because in that moment, the world outside didn't matter. The circumstances that had brought them together didn't matter. All that mattered was this. Him. The quiet ache of wanting something they shouldn't have. They didn't talk about it afterward. Not in words. But something had shifted. The distance was gone. He stopped avoiding her. She stopped pretending she didn't notice when he entered a room. They existed together now, in a space that was fragile and undefined, built on stolen glances and unspoken truths. And for a while, it was enough. The illusion of safety shattered on a Wednesday night. Amora was reading to Zara, her voice soft and melodic as she recited the familiar words of a bedtime story. Zara's eyes were drooping, her small hand clutching her rabbit, when the first sound came. A crash, distant but unmistakable. Amora's voice faltered. She looked toward the door, her pulse quickening. Another crash, closer this time, then shouting, muffled but urgent. Zara stayed, her eyes fluttering open. Mama! Amora's mind raced. She set the book aside, forcing her voice to stay calm. It's okay, sweetheart. Just stay here, okay? She stepped into the hallway. The lights flickered. Her breath came in short, shallow bursts. Kian appeared at the end of the hall, moving fast. His expression was hard, focused. Get Zara. Now. What's happening? We don't have time. Move. She didn't argue. She ran back into Zara's room, scooping her daughter into her arms. Zara whimpered, clinging to her mother's neck. Kian was waiting. He grabbed Amora's arm, pulling her toward the back of the penthouse. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice tight with fear. "Somewhere safe." The shouting grew louder. Glass shattered somewhere behind them. Amora's heart hammered in her chest. Kian opened a door she'd never seen before, hidden in the paneling of the wall. Behind it, a narrow staircase descended into darkness. "Go," he ordered. "What about you?" "I'll be right behind you." "Kian." "Go." She obeyed. The stairs were steep, the air cold. Zara clung to her, trembling. Amora whispered reassurances she didn't believe. Behind her, she heard Kian's voice, sharp and commanding, speaking in rapid-fire sentences she couldn't understand. Then the door slammed shut, plunging them into darkness. She froze. "Kian." Her voice echoed in the narrow space. No answer. Panic surged through her. She fumbled for the wall, her hands shaking, and felt her way down the stairs. At the bottom, a dim emergency light flickered to life, revealing a small, windowless room. Concrete walls. A single door. She tried the handle. Locked. "Mama, I'm scared," Zara whimpered. Amora held her tighter. "It's okay. We're okay." But she didn't know if that was true. They waited. Minutes stretched into hours. Zara eventually fell asleep in Amora's arms, her breathing soft and even. Amora sat with her back against the wall, listening. No more crashes. No more shouting. Just silence. It was worse than the noise. The door finally opened. Amora jolted, her body tensing. But it was Kian. He looked like he'd been through a war. His shirt was torn, blood smeared across his knuckles. His face was hard, unreadable. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice low. She shook her head. "What happened?" "It's handled." That's not an answer. He crouched in front of her, his gaze softening as it landed on Zara. "Is she okay?" "She's fine. You didn't answer my question." He exhaled slowly, sitting back on his heels. "Someone tried to get to you. They didn't." "Who?" "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." His jaw tightened. "People who want leverage. People who think you're the way to get to me." He paused. "They were wrong." Amora's chest ached. "This is my fault. If I hadn't—" "Don't." His voice was sharp. "This isn't on you. It's on me. I brought you here. I put you in this position." "Then let us go." He looked at her, his expression raw. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because if you leave, they'll find you, and I won't be able to stop them." "So what? We just stay here forever, hiding?" "If that's what it takes." "That's not a life, Kian. It's better than the alternative." She wanted to scream, to argue, but she was too tired, too scared. Kian stood, offering his hand. "Come on. Let's get Zara back to bed." She took it. His grip was firm, grounding, and for the first time, she realized she trusted him, not because she wanted to, but because she had no other choice. That night, after Zara was settled, Amara found Kian on the balcony again. He stood at the railing, his hands braced, his head bowed. He looked defeated. She stepped outside. The cold bit at her skin. "Are you okay?" she asked. He didn't turn. "I should have seen this coming." "You can't predict everything." "I should have." His voice was hard, bitter. "That's my job, to protect what's mine. And I failed." No one was hurt. This time. She moved closer, standing beside him. "You can't control everything, Kian." "I have to." "Why?" He finally looked at her. His eyes were dark, haunted. "Because the moment I let my guard down, people die. That's how this world works." "That's not a world. That's a prison." "Maybe, but it's the one I chose." "And what about me? What about Zara? Did we choose this? He turned away, his jaw tight. No. Then let us go. I told you. I know what you told me. But you can't keep us here forever. You can't keep me locked in a cage and call it love. The word hung in the air between them, raw and exposed. Kian's hands curled into fists. I never said it was love. Didn't you? He didn't answer. If your heart's racing too, take a breath. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below for more unforgettable love stories. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Amora spoke, her voice soft. I don't know what this is, but I know it's breaking both of us. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. Then what do you want me to do? I don't know. Neither do I. They stood there, side by side, staring at the city below, and neither of them said what they were both thinking. That maybe there was no right answer, only choices that hurt a little less. The days after the attack were different. Kian didn't leave. Not once. He moved through the penthouse like a restless animal, checking locks, speaking in hushed tones on his phone, stationed in places where he could see every entrance, every exit. His presence was constant, oppressive, and strangely comforting all at once. Amora watched him wear himself down. He barely slept, barely ate. His eyes grew shadowed, his movements sharp and tense. He was unraveling, thread by thread, and she didn't know how to stop it. She didn't know if she wanted to. Zara noticed the change too. Is Kian sick? She asked one morning, her small face creased with worry. Amara was braiding her hair, her fingers moving on autopilot. No, sweetheart. He's just tired. Why? Because he's taking care of us. But who takes care of him? The question lodged itself in Amora's chest. She didn't have an answer. That evening, Amora found him in his office. The door was open. He sat at his desk, head in his hands, shoulders slumped. The weight of his world pressed down on him, visible in every line of his body. She knocked softly. He didn't look up. You should eat something, she said. I'm fine. You're not. He lifted his head, his gaze meeting hers. What do you want, Amora? I want you to stop pretending you're made of stone. His jaw tightened. I don't have the luxury of falling apart. Everyone does. Not me. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. What happens when you break, Kian? What happens to the people who depend on you? I won't break. You're already breaking. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You don't understand. If I stop, even for a second, people die. That's the reality. That's the cost. And what about you? What's the cost of keeping this up? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. The words came out before she could stop them. He stared at her, his expression unreadable. Why? Because she hesitated, her throat tight. Because I care about you, and I hate that I do, but I can't stop. The room fell silent. Kian moved toward her slowly, his eyes searching hers. You shouldn't. I know. This can't work. I know. He cupped her face, his touch gentle. I'm going to hurt you, Amora. That's all I know how to do. Maybe, she whispered, but right now, you're all I have. He kissed her, slow, deliberate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her, and Amora let herself fall. They didn't talk about what came next. They moved through the days in a strange, unspoken rhythm. He was still distant in some ways, still guarded, but the walls between them had cracked, and light was beginning to seep through. At night, he stayed with her. Not in her bed, not yet, but close, on the couch, in the chair by the window, sometimes just sitting on the floor beside her while she sketched. They didn't need words. Their silence said everything. It was on a quiet afternoon that Zara changed everything. She was coloring at the dining table, humming softly to herself. Kian sat across from her, reviewing documents on his tablet. Amara watched them from the kitchen, her chest tight with something she couldn't name. Zara looked up. Kian. Yes. Are you my friend? He paused. I'd like to think so. Good, because I want you to stay. Amora's breath caught. Kian set the tablet down, his gaze softening. Stay away. Here, with us. Zara tilted her head. Forever. The word hung in the air, heavy and fragile. Kian glanced at Amora. Their eyes met, and in that moment, she saw it, the flicker of hope, the crack in his armor, the vulnerability he'd spent his entire life hiding. I don't think it works like that, he said gently. Why not? Because sometimes people can't stay, even when they want to. But you want to. He didn't answer, but his silence was louder than any words. Zara returned to her coloring, satisfied with the conversation. But Amora couldn't move, couldn't breathe, because she realized, with a sinking, terrifying clarity, that she wanted him to stay too. That night, Kian came to her, not to the living room, not to the balcony, to her room. He knocked softly, and when she opened the door, he stood there, looking more uncertain than she'd ever seen him. Can I come in? He asked. She stepped aside. He walked to the window, staring out at the city. I've been thinking about what Zara said. Amora's heart pounded. And I don't know how to do this. He turned to face her. I don't know how to be what you need. What she needs. No one does. Not at first. I've done terrible things, Amora. Things I can't take back. Things that would make you hate me if you knew. Maybe, but I don't know them. All I know is the man standing in front of me. And his trying. That's enough. Is it? Yes. He crossed the room, closing the distance between them. If I stay, this changes everything. You understand that, right? There's no going back. I know. And you still want this. She reached up, cupping his face. I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want you to leave. He kissed her, and this time there was no hesitation, no doubt, just need. They moved together, slow and deliberate, as if they were afraid the moment would shatter. His hands traced the curve of her spine. Her fingers tangled in his hair. And when they finally came together, it wasn't explosive or dramatic. It was quiet, gentle, real. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, their breathing soft and even. Kian's arm was draped over her waist, his forehead resting against her shoulder. I don't know how to do this, he murmured. Neither do I. Then we'll figure it out. She turned to face him, her hand resting on his chest. Promise. He kissed her forehead. Promise. And for the first time in weeks, Amora felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Hope. The days that followed were softer. Not perfect. Not easy. But softer. Kian still carried the weight of his world, but he let Amora carry some of it with him. They fell into a rhythm, mornings with Zara, afternoons where Amora sketched while he worked, evenings where they sat together in comfortable silence. He laughed more. Not often. Not loudly. But when he did, it was real. Zara adored him. She'd taken to following him around, asking endless questions about everything from the stars to why dinosaurs went extinct. And Kian, to Amora's surprise, answered every single one with patience she didn't know he had. You're good with her, Amora said one evening, watching them build a tower out of blocks. Kian glanced up. She makes it easy. She likes you. I like her too. Zara clapped as the tower stayed standing. We did it. Kian smiled. We did. Amora's chest ached in the best way. But beneath the calm, there was always the current. The knowledge that this peace was borrowed, temporary, built on fragile ground. Kian tried to hide it, but Amara saw the way his jaw tightened when his phone rang, the way his eyes darkened when he read certain messages, the way he'd disappear into his office for hours, his voice low and tense through the walls. She didn't ask. She knew he wouldn't answer, but she felt the storm building. It came on a Tuesday night. Amara was tucking Zara into bed when she heard the door open. Kian's voice, sharp and urgent, echoed through the penthouse. She finished the bedtime routine quickly, kissed Zara's forehead, and stepped into the hallway. Kian was pacing in the living room, his phone pressed to his ear, his free hand raked through his hair, his movements tight and agitated. "I don't care what it takes," he said, his voice hard. "Make it happen." He ended the call, tossing the phone onto the couch. Amora approached cautiously. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Kian." "I said it's nothing." His tone was sharp, cutting. She flinched. He saw it. His expression softened, but the tension in his shoulders remained. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." "What happened?" He exhaled slowly, his gaze dropping to the floor. "There's a problem. One I thought I'd handled. Turns out I was wrong." "What kind of problem?" "The kind that puts you and Zara at risk." His stomach twisted. "How bad?" "Bad enough." "So what do we do?" He looked at her, his eyes shadowed. "You don't do anything. I handle it." "Kian." "This is my world, Amara, not yours. I won't let you get pulled deeper into it." "I'm already in it." "Then I'll pull you out." "You can't." "Watch me." He grabbed his jacket, heading for the door. "Where are you going?" she called after him. "To fix this." "Wait." But he was already gone. The door slammed shut, and the silence that followed was deafening. Amora didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window, staring at the city below, her mind racing. She thought about Kian, about Zara, about the life they'd built here, fragile and temporary as it was. She thought about what would happen if it all fell apart. And she realized, with a quiet, aching certainty, that she didn't want to lose him. Not because she needed him, but because she loved him. The realization hit her like a wave. She pressed her hand to her chest, as if she could hold the feeling in place. She loved him, despite everything, despite the circumstances, despite the fear. She loved him, and that terrified her more than anything else. Kian didn't return until dawn. Amara was still awake, sitting on the couch, her legs tucked beneath her. She heard the door open, the soft click of the lock. He stepped inside. His shirt was stained. His knuckles were bruised. But he was whole. She stood. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "You're lying." He smiled faintly. "Maybe." She crossed the room, her hands reaching for his. "What happened?" "It's handled." "Kian." "Amora." He pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her. "It's handled. I promise." She buried her face in his chest, breathing him in. "I was worried." "I know." "Don't do that again." "I can't promise that." She pulled back, looking up at him. "Then promise me something else." "What?" "Promise me you won't shut me out." He hesitated, then nodded. "I'll try. That's all I'm asking." He kissed her forehead, his lips lingering. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not." He laughed softly. "Brutal." "I'm serious." "So am I." Before we close this chapter, take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Every small gesture helps the next story find its way to you. They stood there, wrapped in each other, as the city woke around them. And for a moment, the storm felt far away. But Amora knew. It was only a matter of time before it came crashing down. The storm arrived 3 days later. It didn't announce itself with noise or violence. It came quietly, slipping through the cracks like smoke. Kian had been tense all morning. His phone rang constantly. He disappeared into his office, his voice low and clipped. When he emerged, his expression was harder than Amora had seen in weeks. "Pack a bag," he said. Amora looked up from where she sat with Zara. "What?" "Pack a bag. For you and Zara. We're leaving." "Leaving? Where?" "Somewhere safe." "This place is supposed to be safe." It was. His jaw tightened. "It's not anymore." Panic flared in her chest. "Kian, what's going on?" "I don't have time to explain. Just do it. Now." She stood, her hands trembling. "You're scaring me." He crossed the room, gripping her shoulders. "I know, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" She nodded. "Good. Pack light. We leave in 10 minutes. The car ride was silent. Zara sat between them, clutching her rabbit, her eyes wide and uncertain. Amora held her close, her mind racing. Kian sat rigid, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. The driver, a man Amora didn't recognize, navigated the streets with precision, taking turns that seemed random but clearly weren't. "Where are we going?" Amora asked quietly. "A safe house, outside the city." "For how long?" "I don't know." "Kian." "Not now, Amora." His tone left no room for argument. She swallowed her questions and focused on keeping Zara calm. The safe house was small, isolated, tucked into the woods at the edge of nowhere. It was nothing like the penthouse. No marble floors, no glass walls, just wood and stone and silence. Kian ushered them inside, his hand on the small of Amora's back. The driver stayed outside, his presence a silent sentinel. "You'll be safe here," Kian said, setting their bags down. "No one knows about this place." "What about you?" Amora asked. "I have things to handle." "You're leaving." "I have to." "No." She grabbed his arm. "You don't get to drop us off and disappear. Not this time." "Amora." "What's happening, Kian? Tell me." He exhaled slowly, his gaze dropping to the floor. "There's a man. Someone I thought I'd neutralized. He's back, and he's coming for me." "Then let me help." "You can't." "Why not?" "Because if something happens to me, you need to be safe. You and Zara. That's all that matters." "You matter." He cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "I'm not worth saving, Amora." "That's not for you to decide." He kissed her, hard, desperate, like it might be the last time. When he pulled back, his eyes were shadowed. "I'll come back. I promise." "Kian." But he was already gone. The hours stretched. Amora tried to keep Zara distracted. They colored. They read. They explored the small cabin, finding hidden nooks and dusty corners. But Amora's mind was elsewhere. She thought about Kian, about the danger he was walking into, about the promise he'd made, a promise she wasn't sure he could keep. Night fell. Zara fell asleep in her arms, her breathing soft and even. Amora sat by the window, staring at the darkness beyond, and waited. The door opened hours later. Amora jolted awake, her heart pounding. She'd fallen asleep in the chair, Zara still curled against her. Kian stepped inside. He looked like he'd been through hell. His shirt was torn. Blood stained his hands. His face was bruised, his lips split. But he was alive. Amora carefully set Zara down on the couch and rushed to him. "Oh my God! Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "You're not fine. I'm alive. That's what matters." She grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the bathroom. "Sit." He obeyed without argument. She wet a cloth, gently cleaning the blood from his face. He winced but didn't pull away. "What happened?" she asked softly. "It's over." "What's over?" The threat. His gone. Her hand stilled. Gone. Yes. She didn't ask how. She didn't want to know. So we're safe now, she asked. For now. And later? I'll figure it out. She set the cloth aside, her hands trembling. I can't keep doing this, Kian. I can't keep waiting for the next disaster. For the next time you walk out that door and I don't know if you're coming back. I know. Then what do we do? He looked at her, his expression raw. I don't know. That's not good enough. It's all I have. She turned away, her chest tight. Maybe it's not enough. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Kian stood, his movements slow and deliberate. He walked to the window, staring out at the darkness. You're right, he said quietly. You deserve better. You deserve a life that doesn't involve looking over your shoulder. A life where you're not waiting for me to ruin it. Kian, I'm going to fix this. All of it. And then I'm going to let you go. Her breath caught. What? You and Zara. You'll be free. Safe. I'll make sure of it. I don't want that. It doesn't matter what you want. He turned to face her, his eyes hard. This is the only way. No, it's not. Amora. I love you. The words came out before she could stop them. Kian froze. She took a shaky breath. I love you, and I don't care how stupid that is, or how dangerous, or how wrong. I love you, and I'm not leaving. He stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then he crossed the room in 3 strides and kissed her. And in that kiss, she felt everything. The fear, the hope, the desperation, the love. I love you too, he murmured against her lips. And that's why I have to let you go. She pulled back, her eyes searching his. Don't you dare. I have to. No, you don't. We'll figure this out. Together. Amora. Together, Kian. That's the only way this works. He closed his eyes, his forehead resting against hers. You're going to get hurt. Then I'll get hurt, but I'm not leaving. He held her tighter, as if he could keep her safe through sheer will alone. And in that moment, Amara knew. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Or not at all. The days at the safe house blurred together. Time moved differently here. Slower, quieter. The world outside felt like a distant memory, something that belonged to someone else. Kian stayed, not because he had to, but because, for the first time in his life, he chose to. He didn't disappear into work, didn't vanish for hours at a time. He was present, fully, completely present. He played with Zara in the mornings, built towers that she'd knock down with gleeful laughter, read her stories at night, his deep voice soft and patient. And in the evenings, after Zara was asleep, he sat with Amara by the fire, their hands intertwined, their silence comfortable. It was the closest thing to normal either of them had ever known. But normal was an illusion. Amora knew it couldn't last. She saw it in the way Kian's jaw would tighten when his phone buzzed, the way his eyes would grow distant, as if he were calculating something she couldn't see. He was planning something. She didn't know what, but she felt it. It came to a head on the 7th night. Amara was washing dishes when Kian appeared behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. She leaned into him, letting the warmth of his body seep into hers. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. Her heart sank. Okay. There's a way out. For you and Zara. A way to make sure you're safe. Permanently. She turned to face him, water dripping from her hands. What are you talking about? I've been working on it. Quietly. A new identity. New city. New life. No ties to me. No one would ever find you. Her chest tightened. And what about you? I stay. I clean up the mess I've made. And then I disappear. No. Amora. No, Kian. We've been through this. This is different. This is real. I can give you the life you deserve, but only if you let me. She stepped back, her hands curling into fists. I don't want a new life. I want this one. This one isn't real. It is to me. He reached for her, but she pulled away. Don't do this. Don't ask me to choose between you and safety. Because I'll choose you. Every time. And that's why I have to make the choice for you. Her breath caught. What? I've already set it in motion. The paperwork. The arrangements. In 2 days, you and Zara will leave. And I won't follow. Tears pricked her eyes. You can't do that. I can. And I am. Why? Because I love you. His voice broke. And I won't let my world destroy you. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. You don't get to decide that. I'm the only one who can. She wanted to scream, to argue, to fight, but she knew. She knew he'd already made up his mind, and nothing she said would change it. The next 2 days were agony. Amara tried to pretend everything was fine. For Zara's sake. For her own. But Kian was pulling away. Not physically. He was still there, still present. But emotionally, he was building walls again, brick by brick. And Amara could do nothing but watch. On the final night, after Zara was asleep, Amara found Kian outside. He stood in the clearing behind the cabin, staring up at the stars. The night was cold, the air sharp. She wrapped her arms around herself and walked toward him. I don't want to leave, she said. I know. Then why are you making me? He turned to face her, his eyes shadowed. Because I've spent my entire life taking things. Power. Control. Lives. I won't take your future too. You're not taking it. I'm giving it to you. And I'm refusing. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. What if I don't want to go? Then I'll carry you to the car myself. You wouldn't. I would. She knew he meant it. I hate you, she whispered. I know. I love you. I know. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like he could keep her there forever. I'm sorry, Amara, for all of it, for dragging you into this, for making you care, for... Don't. She pressed her hand to his chest. Don't apologize for the only good thing in my life. His grip tightened. You're the only good thing in mine. They stood there, wrapped in each other, as the stars turned overhead. And when the sun rose, Amara knew. This was goodbye. The car arrived at dawn. Amara stood in the doorway, Zara's hand in hers, her small suitcase at her feet. Everything she owned, everything that mattered, fit into that single bag. It felt like an ending. Kian stood a few feet away, his hands in his pockets, his expression carefully blank. But Amara saw through it. She always did. The driver will take you to the city, he said. From there, you'll meet someone who'll help you get settled. New apartment, new documents, everything you need. And then what? Amara asked, her voice tight. Then you live. Without you. Yes. Zara tugged on Amara's hand. Mama, where are we going? Amara crouched down, forcing a smile. We're going on an adventure, sweetheart. Is Kian coming? Amora's throat closed. She glanced up at him, her eyes pleading. Kian knelt beside them, his gaze soft. Not this time, kid. Zara's face fell. Why not? Because I have some things I need to take care of. But you and your mom, you're going to do amazing things. But I don't want to leave you. He cupped her small face in his hands. I know, but sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do, to keep the people we love safe. Will I see you again? He hesitated. Maybe. Someday. It was a lie. Amora knew it. Zara probably knew it too. But she didn't argue. Kian pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. Be good for your mom, okay? Okay. He released her, standing slowly. His eyes met Amora's. Take care of her, he said. I always have. I know. The driver opened the car door. Zara climbed inside, clutching her rabbit. Amora didn't move. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Neither do I. Then don't make me. He stepped closer, his hand cupping her cheek. I have to. Kian. I love you, Amora, more than I thought I could love anyone, and that's why I'm letting you go. Tears streamed down her face. This isn't letting go. This is running away. Maybe, but it's the only way you survive. I don't want to survive. I want to live. With you. His jaw tightened. You can't. Why not? Because I'm not built for this. For happiness. For forever. I'm built to destroy. And I won't destroy you. She grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer. You already have. He kissed her. One last time. It was slow, gentle, heartbreaking. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. Go, he whispered. Kian. Go. She wanted to fight, to scream, to refuse, but she didn't. She climbed into the car. The door closed. The engine started. And as the car pulled away, Amora turned back, watching through the rear window as Kian grew smaller and smaller, until he was nothing but a shadow in the distance. Zara leaned against her, her voice small. Mama, are we ever going to see him again? Amora closed her eyes, her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know. The city was loud. After weeks of silence, the noise felt overwhelming. Horns, voices, the constant hum of life. Amora felt numb. The contact Kian had arranged met them at a cafe. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She handed Amora an envelope. Inside, new IDs, apartment keys, bank account information. A new life. He took care of everything, the woman said. You'll be safe here. Amora nodded, her throat too tight to speak. He's a good man, the woman added, despite what people think. Amora looked up. You know him? I used to, a long time ago. She stood, placing a hand on Amora's shoulder. He doesn't let people in. The fact that he let you go? That's love. She left before Amora could respond. The apartment was small but comfortable, a far cry from the penthouse. But it was theirs. Zara explored the rooms, her excitement a brief reprieve from the heaviness in Amora's chest. That night, after Zara was asleep, Amora sat by the window, staring at the city lights. And she thought about Kian, about the way he'd held her, the way he'd looked at Zara, the way he'd chosen to let them go, even though it destroyed him. She pulled out her phone, opened a new message. Asterisk, I hate you for this. And I love you for it. Stay safe. Kian at asterisk. She hit send. The message went through, but there was no reply. 3 months passed. Amora built a life. Not the one she'd imagined, but a life nonetheless. She enrolled Zara in preschool, found freelance work designing logos and websites. Slowly, the pieces came together. The apartment stopped feeling temporary. It started feeling like home. But there was always an emptiness, a space she couldn't fill. She thought about Kian every day, every night. In the quiet moments when Zara was asleep and the world was still, she wondered if he thought about her too. She wondered if he was safe. She wondered if he was alive. The answer came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Amora was working when her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello. Silence. Hello, she repeated. It's me. Her breath caught. Kian. Yeah. Her hand trembled. Are you okay? I'm alive. That's not the same thing. He laughed softly. No, It's not. Silence stretched between them. Why are you calling? She asked. I don't know. I needed to hear your voice. Her chest tightened. I miss you. I miss you too. Are you safe? For now. That's not good enough. It's all I have. She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. Will I ever see you again? A long pause. I don't know, he said finally. I want to, but I don't know if it's safe. I don't care about safe. I do. Kian. I have to go. Wait. But the line was already dead. 6 months later, Amara received a package. No return address, no note, just a small box wrapped in plain brown paper. Inside, a sketch. Her sketch, the one she'd drawn of Zara back in the penthouse. And beneath it, a single word in Kian's handwriting. Asterisk soon. Asterisk. Amora's breath caught. She pressed the paper to her chest, tears streaming down her face. A year passed, then another. Life continued. Zara grew. Amora healed. But she never forgot. And every night, before she went to sleep, she whispered the same words. Asterisk, come back to me. Asterisk. And then, one autumn evening, as the leaves turned gold and the air grew crisp, there was a knock at the door. Amora opened it, and there he was. Kian, older, tired, but whole. Hi, he said. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. He smiled faintly. Can I come in? She stepped aside, her heart pounding. He entered slowly, his gaze moving around the apartment. It's nice. It's home. He turned to face her. I'm sorry it took so long. You came back. That's all that matters. I don't know if I can stay. Then don't. Just be here. For now. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like he'd never let go. And Amora, for the first time in years, felt complete. Zara appeared in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Mama. She stopped. Stared. Kian. He smiled. Hey, kid. She ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. You came back. I did. Are you staying? He glanced at Amora. She nodded. Yeah, he said softly. I'm staying. The days that followed were gentle. Kian didn't talk much about where he'd been, what he'd done, and Amora didn't ask. All that mattered was that he was here. They rebuilt, slowly, carefully, piece by piece, and in the quiet moments, when Zara was asleep and the world was still, Kian would hold Amora close and whisper the words she'd waited years to hear. I'm not going anywhere. And she believed him, because this time, it wasn't a cage. It was a choice. If stories like this linger in your heart long after they end, don't leave just yet. Like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below, and let the next story find you when the night grows quiet again.